Okay, we're on air.
Okay, good deal. All right, Joe. So for those people who might be watching or watching live or picking up on this later, I just want to um, anchor this for them and let them know that we are working from the Make a Case, the suggestions of how to make a case from the Making Learning Connected blog or homepage. And we are going to be going through an annotated dialogue, and we've used some of the dialogue prompts, um, some suggested dialogue prompts. So why don't you start off just by talking about what is your role with the CL MOOC?
So this year I'm part of a facilitation team, and specifically I help the Make Cycle leaders, and I'm leading the Make Cycle coaching. So what that means, because I facilitated the CL MOOC last year, this year I'm helping to broaden and distribute the leadership of this massive open online collaboration. And so I helped recruit some of the teams who are leading Make Cycles, and then I'm also supporting them like by engaging them in kind of a rapid prototyping coaching protocol about a week and a half before they lead their Make Cycles, um, just to kind of orient them into how CL MOOC might work. So that's basically it. Facilitation team, helping to recruit the distributed leadership, and then kind of coaching them and supporting them through the week.
Okay, now you've kind of anticipated a next question, which is to talk about some of the resources or tools that are available. You mentioned the rapid prototype, or the protocol you use to do some rapid prototyping with the facilitation plans. Are there other resources you want to talk about, or maybe you want to talk about that one first, and if there are other resources or tools, we can come back to it. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the protocol you're using?
Yeah, and here it is. I'm screen sharing it right now, and basically to make you the best use of an excuse me, an hour-long coaching meeting, again about 10 days prior to the start of the Make Cycle. I've got a tight protocol where that's designed for anybody who's going to lead a Make Cycle to get a lot of feedback about what participants might want to do inside their Make Cycle, and also what they might want to bear in mind about facilitation. So, there's a little introduction in terms of just kind of telling would-be facilitators about last year's experience in terms of some of the things that shifted on us in terms of our plans, leading the Make Cycles. We think one thing's going to happen, and then this large community kind of takes things in different directions. So the intro to the work is essentially to say that this will be a little bit strange, definitely different than a face-to-face classroom context, and that we want to just that's the rationale for the protocol, is that because this is sort of a slippery teaching and learning space, we're just trying to like bombard them with feedback and possibilities so they start to think about the dynamics of leading in this type of a collaboration. So tell them a few stories to kind of lower the anxiety and say, things might not go exactly the way you envision. And then during the meat of the protocol, anybody who's tuned in to help out as a coach, and pretty much anyone who's participated on any level in CL MOOC is welcome to do that. So when they pop in as a coach, they're going to role play first as a participant. So they hear the would-be facilitators share what they want participants to do during their week, and then our coaches, respond as users, role playing like what they might do. And the important part there is that the facilitators talk really quickly through their plan. They don't get to articulate it fully, and then they hear what people take of kind of their broad idea. And so those facilitators sort of listen as the coaches use these sentence frames. And then they switch roles about halfway through the protocol, and we do this role play where we say, okay, you've heard the plan, and now let's say the facilitators have totally abandoned us. They're not going to lead their week after all, and so we have to lead the week. How would we do it? We don't have to do it to their satisfaction, but we have to name what we would do to facilitate the week. And so there's some prompts here, like what would you be explicit about facilitating? What motto would you keep in mind? If I saw a blank, I might respond by blank. So that's the protocol and the tool. And it's really designed to, have those facilitators start to grapple and contend and plan in response to what might happen in a large distributed space like CLMOOC.
Okay. So how many times have you used this protocol with the facilitators as they're planning their make cycle?
Four different four different facilitation teams, and then one time because I'm leading next week, it was kind of used on me.
Okay. And what are you noticing as you facilitate the protocol and participate as a sort of a contributor or a contributing participant? And then maybe we'll follow that up and say, what was it like for you to go through using that protocol and getting feedback that way?
Let's see. So what I'm noticing is I'm noticing that the prompts and the role play are enabling or empowering the coaches or the people who would serve as coaches to jump right in and start giving feedback immediately. So, especially with a word like coaching can start to, I mean, it connotes some type of authority, right? And so when participants come in to coach, like a few weeks ago, to coach the Northern California Writing Project on how they should lead their week, a lot of times the people who are serving as coaches might say, "Hey, what do I know? Why would I be able to coach a team like that?" And I think by doing role play and having some sentence prompts or some sentence frames is really just empowering them quickly to start giving useful feedback and giving useful information to those teams. So that I'm noticing that we're having a lot of fast interactions that seem productive and supportive, and I was concerned that we might have some crickets, not being too sure of what to say or how to respond to a broad idea in, again, this kind of different context leading a MOOC.
And what was it like for you getting feedback in that scenario where, as you said, the facilitator doesn't really get to fully articulate their ideas and they start to get feedback from these people in this role play scenario? What was that like for you?
Well, I think it's helpful. The big shift, of course, is as you kind of half articulated an idea that you've grappled with quite a bit. So as I think about the week I want to lead, you know, I've been thinking about it for 5 weeks. So I could talk about it for 2 hours. So having to express my plan in 5 minutes, when people start to give feedback, the natural inclination is sort of to answer it or to say, "Oh yeah, I thought about that," or "I was really seeing it this way. I really want to clarify my ideas because I'm trying to clarify my idea for myself." When I hear people start to talk about my idea, again, my reaction is to want to clarify for them. So trying to withhold that instinct and instead just jot down ideas. So have a piece of paper and a pencil next to me and just jot down everything I hear them say and restrain myself from trying to clarify. That's one thing. And then once I sort of resist that urge to clarify or keep explaining, it's really useful because I have data or information to take into my planning. So that's what I'm noticing, and I'm also noticing that when others go through the process, it takes a little reminding, and I've kind of had to be a little bit polite but nudging about, okay, you don't have to explain your idea more fully, or don't keep talking about the history of this idea and why it's important in education. Let's just listen to what participants think about the rough idea or the broad idea.
Okay, so now that you've gone through this as a facilitator and as someone taking feedback, what are your takeaways from that, or how are you feeling about that use of the protocol in guiding the facilitators?
So the use of the protocol in guiding facilitators, I would stick with it. Again, I think that I have, when I'm reaching out to people who will coach, so often they're responding with, "I'm not sure I'm the right one, to task for this, but I'm game." And so I even heard that from Kim when we invited her to coach, us in the game week session. She said, "Well, I don't know much about games, and I don't think I'm the right person for you." And then of course she had awesome feedback and even shared instances of where they'd remixed games at her writing project. So again, as I'm kind of hearing from people who would coach, and they're saying, I don't know if I'm the right person. Are you sure you're asking the right person? I think the protocol is helpful because it gives them access, and it kind of empowers them with a little bit of voice, through those sentence frames too.
Nice. Now you mentioned one participant or one other person, Kim, and but who else is involved in the coaching or I guess in the facilitation or the coaching of those facilitators, and how are you finding the overall collaboration?
So what we've done is we invited a range of folks to help us out with the coaching piece, and just kind of pushed out an email to people who were active participants last year. And so we're getting folks, who haven't led MOOCs before. At the same time, they're familiar with the CL MOOC, and they're interested in, they're active participants currently, or they were active participants last year. So those are the people we were reaching out to. That was your question, right? Who else was involved?
Who else is involved? And then it seems also like that group might change week to week. So can you talk about the collaboration dynamics amongst that group and how you're feeling about that?
Yeah, the group has shifted week to week. Although we have a few folks who, like Jose Rodriguez, is one person who's been in several sessions. So has Chad Sansing, and then who was a facilitator last year and also supports us with the facilitation this year. And then who else? Always from the NWP, Christina Cantrell is always there. And then we've also worked in a few other participants who are getting, sort of acclimated to the protocol. And so what I've noticed is that how's the collaborative work? The collaborative work it's been relatively seamless because of the fast pace. I think that by speeding it up, we sort of don't give anyone time for anxiety or to apologize for giving feedback, that kind of thing. And also, I think participants in this type of online learning seem to have something to say about how ideas or plans feel on their end. So they seem like anxious to talk about what they would do in response, because they so often have to make sense of what's expected of them because it's pushed out to them in distributed means like newsletters and tweets and Google Plus posts. So I'm noticing that they're really ready participants in this coaching meeting because they have a lot to say when we decrease the anxiety by speeding things up.
Okay, so maybe you can talk about the size of that group. Are you soliciting other participants to take part as coaches? And if so, how would they get involved? Maybe by watching one of the coaches' hangouts, and then how would they? What are some options for them as far as participation?
Well, yeah, and maybe I should be a little more clear about that. What we did was we generated a big list prior to the start of this MOOC about who could provide insight, who were active participants last year, and so we sent out a broadcast email to I want to say about 30 people. That might be wrong. It might be only 25 or so, and asked them if they'd be willing to sign up for coaching meetings. And then when they did, we've just kind of we've circulated through that group. So it's actually kind of a smaller group than when I said anyone can get involved. That was probably wrong, actually, because not everyone's seen that opportunity. So and now we've been pushing out to the facilitator community that has about 30 members. So anybody who's helped with the facilitation or helped with coaching, it's about 30 people that we're asking for support, and then depending on who's signed up for the coaching meeting, we do request participants kind of on the fly, the day and a half before that coaching meeting. So I guess it's not as open as I made it sound.
Okay. Now we've sort of gone through this annotated dialogue protocol a little bit. Is there anything else you were hoping to get a chance to discuss, or any last thoughts you want to share?
Oh, just the one reflection moment that I wanted to think about this week, that I found myself thinking about this week, was, um, on this protocol we talk about, what would you do as a facilitator, and there's, kind of a funny prompt I have, which is, if I saw blank, I might respond by blank. And so I think during the Make With Me hangout this week, as the team from the Northern California Writing Project is talking about memes and leading this meme week, a lot of the interaction in that hangout was certainly informational about memes. It was also an occasion where a few participants started to say that they were really annoyed by memes, and like memes. They didn't like memes, and so there was. I struggled with that as a viewer, because I was thinking, oh man, what do you? Because my prompt was, if I saw blank, I might respond by blank, and I was thinking to myself, okay, if I saw participants telling facilitators that the key content of the week, or the main idea of the week, was effectively annoying, how would you respond? And I have no answer for that. I was kind of like, oh no, is this going to crash? I mean, on a couple of different levels, because when participants are creating memes at the request of the facilitators, or at the prompting of the facilitators, and then we have a synchronous session where people are saying memes are annoying, I just worry that the creative products folks are producing, we're labeling them as annoying. And so I don't think it's an appropriate analogy to say a teacher in a classroom has asked for student work and then they call the work annoying, because this isn't a classroom, and we're not trying to conduct direct instruction or anything. We are asking people to think about these things. Still, I worry, because I have that hat on, that I'm concerned about the facilitators and how things are going for them, and because to some degree, it's a new experience for them facilitating this, a MOOC. When they start to hear people say memes are annoying and the week is about memes, I had a little tension there. I think it played out pretty well, and my thought was, number one, yeah, was I nervous or worried? I was a little nervous and worried, just because you want the tone to be positive and invitational. Still, we also don't want an echo chamber where anything anyone posts is then immediately deemed as like a strong educational idea. I don't think that, I think that there's room for us to say that all ideas have positive possibilities. I also think it's okay for us to grapple with memes and their importance. And I think because memes are, to a large degree, part of internet culture, we don't have to say that internet culture is awesome just because we're dipping our toes and participating in it. So that was an interesting thing for me to think through this week.
Okay, and you said that it all sort of worked out well in the end. What do you mean by that? What gave you what was your indication that even though people were saying this memes are annoying, that it sort of played out okay?
Well, I guess it's hard with the metrics, because number one, we're not trying to pull direct analytics to try and figure out if anything's successful. When we say that a week is successful, you could easily say that a week hadn't been successful, and there's no clear criteria for that, except the extent to which we see teachers teaching teachers in the MOOC. When I see teachers teaching teachers, or teachers thinking together about big ideas and connected learning principles, I feel like things are successful. And so, because I saw blog posts the remainder of the week reflecting on the creation of memes, why memes are important. We even saw memes that were more educational memes show up, where teachers are kind of commenting on the state of education, or trying to point forward towards kind of a more positive view of teachers in the media. That is an indication of success for me, because of the level of discourse and the digital footprint that the MOOC is leaving. And so I would say those really thoughtful blog posts, the powerful memes, and then also the idea that silly and fun memes persisted, despite the fact that we may have called them annoying in the synchronous session.
Okay, so all right, thanks for sharing your thinking around your coaching role there. I look forward to seeing what you do with this as you present your make a case.
Yes, sir. So is that the end there?
Over and out.
All right, good job.